Yeah, who's really broadcasting for 8 hours? I'm so curious.
I mean, I guess some people do like the
Yeah, who's really
oh, there you are. Oh, and then I lost my train of thought because I heard you talking and then it hurt my brain. Like the live streams, like when they do like the overnight like write-ins.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, hello everyone.
Hi guys.
Welcome to Kate and I discussing plot bunnies and how many plot bunnies are too many plot bunnies.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Is there such a thing as too many plot bunnies?
The $1 million questions you're asking.
It is the $1 million question, indeed. Let us know in the chat section if you are here. Make sure you change the chat from live chat or from top chat to live chat because I forgot to do that in the settings. I normally do that and I did not, which means you may fire me. Someone wants to know what are plot bunnies. Plot bunnies are just essentially when you are a writer, different plot stories that jump into your head that try to distract you from other things that you're working on. So say you're, hanging out in the shower and you get an idea to make a book about a dystopian where a girl has to fight vampire zombies or zombie vampires or rats that turn into sheep. I don't know.
Can I just say I agree to all of those options?
And so that is your plot bunny. Bunnies that turn into plots, if you will.
Yes, and sometimes they turn into full-blown stories, but other times they're, half-baked.
They end up in the plot bunny graveyard.
Yes.
I have had plot bunnies for like new stories that end up integrating into other stories.
Oh, I like that. Someone was telling me I had a story that I wrote all the way through and I had to kind of give up on it because I realized it just wasn't marketable kind of thing. And someone's like, well, you don't throw the idea out. Maybe you can infuse it with something else later. And I haven't found that something I can infuse it with, but I do feel like that's generally good advice. So
I have a fan fiction that I wrote a really long time ago. In 2010. I think we've talked about it before. It was the one that I wrote right after my best friend died, like the month after she died. And so like a lot of that is like grief, dealing with grief and things like that. And so I'll never publish this fan fiction because it's a fan fiction, but I have pulled parts out of that to put into other stories to use like that grief aspect.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's not even like one character or one like scene, not something as concrete, but the actual like working through a thought process that you do in one novel and you realize you want to take that and put it somewhere else. So
yeah, you know that you want to do something different.
Yes.
I am very confused by I'm flipped. Don't look at yourself twice because it's weird. Can you you're showing up normal, but mine's backwards.
Oh, I see you. I see you normal. Oh, I do see on my screen the little one. I am flipped on mine too.
Yeah. I'm flipped on my small screen too. Weird.
But
you look normal to me.
Just don't look at yourself. Generally good advice.
Generally good advice. Don't look at yourself. Okay. Jody says, Kate, totally off topic, but I just watched your video and just got rid of over 150 books. More power to you, Jody.
Yeah, that's what, at the end of the video, I realized I needed to get rid of basically like 230 books. I don't know how that's going to happen. But Jessica and I were talking, and I apparently made her feel real good about the number of unread books she has.
Oh, yes. Quite good. I don't know what the numbers are, but they're better than yours either way.
Yeah, that's what's important.
That's the important part for me today.
Yeah. I'm still trying to count up the number of books or novels that I've written, that I have like in some various stage of works in progress.
You
So
must
that
have way more than me because it didn't take me that long.
that's like, well, because I was thinking I have some that I've like written one full draft of, but I haven't returned to them in the past, I don't know, few months. So I'm like, well, it needs to be counted.
Some of mine I haven't looked at in like 4 or 5 years, but like I know that they still have
Life.
like, yeah, they're still there. I just haven't worked on them because I've been working on everything else. Which
Yeah.
makes sense though, because your writing speed is way faster than mine. Like I write in a month what you write in a year. So, or no, backwards. You write in a month what I write in a year. That made more sense. So it
Yes.
makes sense that you have more than I do because you write more than I do. Because I suck at my life.
No, that's what I mean. I think I have more time to do it too. Let's see.
Ugh. What is time? I don't have any of that. So just, to keep the conversation going. Yeah, we are going to talk about plot bunnies and basically just how to decide which story is more, not necessarily more important, but more important to spend your time on, I guess. I'm losing
Yeah,
words
how to
today.
balance.
How to balance what you're doing, what should be the forefront of what you're working on. Because we do both write multiple stories at multiple times, some of us just faster than others.
Yeah. And we both recommend that to other people, right? Like, do you recommend to other people to like not put all your eggs in one basket kind of thing? And
Definitely. Mine is more that I do it if I'm stuck somewhere
yes.
or if I'm just not feeling it. And I think I have that luxury because I'm not writing to make money. I'm not publishing at this current moment in time. So like I'm not on a deadline other than what I've set for myself.
Yes.
So I have the luxury of jumping back and forth between things until I can figure out what is working best for me at the time. Are you still counting?
I feel like I got them all, but this is why I'm a little bit worried I like missed something. But no, I think I got them. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 open, in quotes, projects in various stages of doneness / 6 plot bunnies, full realized plot bunnies.
I have 3 that are like the main 3 that I've been switching back and forth between for like the past couple of years. Because again, I take forever to write a story. But I have like plot bunny total wise, like the ones that I have actual folders and files for is 13.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Because yeah, I have like one file where it's just like different sentences because there's not really a whole lot going on in that plot. But anything where I have like a basic like couple of paragraph outline for, because that sentence wasn't coming out, I give it its own folder. So that if I have like an idea for it, I can add things in. There's some of them that I haven't touched in years.
Yeah.
But there are 3 that I'm working on. I don't want to say full time, but more often than the rest.
Yes. Yeah.
And I have 4 that I have at least a full first draft of.
Okay, gotcha.
The rest of them are all like just ideas.
Yeah. Well, so I guess that's what I should correct mine too. So I have 6 that are like more than partial drafts, I guess. Like 5 that have done a full first draft at least. Some of them in more than like second, third, whatever. One of them, I have my Scooby-Doo meets Princess Bride story that I just like could never quite get past the halfway point at camp. So that one, and then yeah, the countless ideas. Now that I have Scrivener, I've been working on keeping a like ideas folder, but I feel like I really need to move something from my phone, from my Google Drive, and put it all in this kind of thing. So, plot point.
I still struggle with Scrivener. I have figured it out, like, for one story. That's what I'm using for the Princess's Guard story that I've been working on most recently. But I still, because I'm old school, super old school, I still run with OneNote.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
I started using it probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, whenever it first came out. I don't know. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But I feel comfortable with it. Like, I like the folder system. I know how to, like, color code things, and I can do what I need to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Scrivener, about 80% of the tutorials for Scrivener are for Mac. And Mac has more features than the PC version does.
Yeah.
So I can't do everything that you can do.
Yeah.
Which sucks because it's really hard. Like, you can't do a lot of the color coding things that that other people can do. So it's not as fun.
You know what? They had that problem. They've had that problem for years where they really develop on the Mac and not on just like a normal PC, because I had that. I had a Windows computer, you know, a while ago, and that was still the problem. It's actually why I got away from using Scrivener after like the free trials and stuff, because I was like, I really can't do most of the things everyone raves about. Now that I have a MacBook, I'm like, well, I can do it, but you know.
I still like Scrivener. I still like the format. I'm still enjoying it, as far as like having a place to keep everything. And I like the save feature of it, but it's not as wonderful as it would be if I had a Mac. But
yes, yeah.
Dun, dun. I'm reading comments.
Yeah.
I didn't finish NaNoWriMo, so I've been working on it on and off, but not very much. This is kind of off topic, but how do you stay motivated? Like, I'm invested in my story, but I just get busy. That's a Kate question, because I don't stay motivated.
Well, I feel like that can also wrap into the whole plot bunny thing, because you kind of talked about, or I'll say what happens for me is that trying to figure out if I'm just losing motivation in a particular story and that's why I have other ideas, if that's what's happening to me, or if I just generally am like stuck, or like, I don't know, trying to figure out why I'm unmotivated is important for me. But let's see. How do you stay motivated? I'm invested in my story, but I just get busy. I mean, sometimes life does get in the way. So that's like caveat number one. But then after that, like, if you can rule that out, if you find you're watching more movies or TV shows or whatever and not spending your like hobby time or free time writing your story, I feel like that usually means there's something kind of sort of off about the story. And that for me is when I get all the plot bunnies, all the distractions.
I wrote in my notes, trial and error. If you are losing motivation and you're not feeling like what you're working on is working for you, and you have other plot bunnies, or even if you don't, I think each individual person is going to be different. Things that keep you motivated are going to be different. So if you like make a list of things that other people have tried and you try those things and see how they work for you, and if for a lot of people, for me, I don't know if it's the same way for you, but like sometimes walking away from that story and working on something else for a day or two makes me want to go back to that story more, and makes me more productive in it.
Yes, for sure. Like, I'm always alternating between two stories because of that reason. And I don't need to work on one story every single day to feel like I'm being productive. Like, sometimes it needs to sit for a week and I'll work exclusively on this story. But like, I alternate, and the ideas kind of feed the other, because, you know, when I'm not feeling inspired for this one, I will be for this one. So
I didn't realize that until, which is a weird way to look at it, but I didn't realize the advantages to working on more than one story at a time until I started reading more than one story at a time.
Oh, that is interesting.
Because I found that if I read like one story, which I mean, you can look at the difference in productivity. In 2017, I read like 54 books.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2018, I read like 113, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I attribute that to the momentum of when you are finished with one book. Sometimes it takes you a while to like want to pick up another book.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So if you're reading more than one at a time and you're at a different place, say you finish this book, but you're only halfway through the next one, you want to finish that one so that you know how it ends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you keep it rolling, and that works for me. It has been this year so far, at least, for writing.
Wow.
Because sometimes you're like, oh, I just want to push myself and get to the end of this chapter. And then once you get to the end of the chapter, like for me, it'll be like 6 months later when I decide to go back after I finish that chapter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've learned if I, don't stop at the end of a chapter ever. I always end like in the middle of a chapter. I do not end at a chapter end because I will walk away from it forever. And also working on another story that also is not ending on a chapter. So it keeps me motivated to continue on because I want to get to that end point that I will never get to because I refuse to stop there now.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So I love completing a chapter. Like that's like stopping point for most of my like writing sections when I sit down is like, okay, or even just the end of a scene. I don't know that I ever stop in the middle of a scene anymore unless I legitimately get distracted. And usually that can coincide with the end of a chapter. But I do something kind of similar in that I like to write stories that are different from each other at the same time. So like I might just be in the mood to write like a cute lovey-dovey scene in a romance novel, and so I'll be writing that for a bit, and then that'll perfectly coincide with like me being tired of that and wanting to write like an epic fight scene in my fantasy novel kind of thing. So it's the same kind of energy, I feel like.
You have multiple things at the same time going on to keep it all working out.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I had a thought and then it left.
No.
There, and then it was.
That's another kind of plot bunny. Just
gone.
Popped away.
Just gone forever now. We shall never find it again. Trump, my love, voted for Trump.
What?
It's in the comments. Trump, my love, I voted for Trump. Good for you, whoever you are.
Oh no.
I just seen that. My brain froze. I don't even remember what I was going to say. We were talking about plot bunnies, talking about books, talking about reading, talking about writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just like, I completely blanked. Completely. Anyway. Oh my gosh. I really am like, just like.
Well, let's see. Well, how comfortable do you feel sharing the like 3 you're working on right now? Like, are they different for you, or are they all kind of this like a YA fantasy sort of thing? Since I know a little bit about one of them, maybe.
The constant I'm always working on is the warrior story, which is getting. I was going to beta it, and I changed my mind and decided that I wanted to rewrite it with more world building.
Ooh, yes.
Because I have been using some world building crutches, and I have realized that because I'm old now and I can see those things.
Nah. Yeah.
So like I'm going to rewrite that, but that's like is set like in a fantasy world built into our own world, with elves and magic creatures, and is basically like light and dark battling one another. The guard story that I've been working on that's the one that I said is set. It's set in the future, but it feels like it's medieval because it's kind of like post-apocalyptic, but it's like way after the apocalypse.
Yes.
So it's like after they've averted like all of the major issues, and it's just like society starting over.
Yeah.
but it's like way further down the line.
Yeah.
And it is basically like set in a kingdom, and there's like a battle with another kingdom. Girls trying to take their rightful place on the throne. All that good stuff. Good girl stories. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the other, in complete difference, is it's kind of magical realism.
Okay.
In the sense that it is we've talked about it before too. It's based off of an old French folklore of the Yanaku, which is basically like their Grim Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the girl is cursed to die on her 16th birthday, her 17th birthday. She was like 15, and now she's like 17 because I started writing stuff, and I'm like, this is not age appropriate.
Yeah.
Like, the closer my nieces get to 15, the closer I'm like, this is not age appropriate. She needs to be older because I can't. She needs to be older than this because there's some stuff happening that is not appropriate for that age bracket. Okay, let's age her up a little bit. But it's basically about like her trying to figure out how to combat the Anku and save her life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like fighting so much as like history based.
Yeah.
So 3 very different, weird, random things.
Yes. But that's what I love, I feel like, about young adult, especially. I mean, I know other, just outside of young adult has the same thing, but I feel like the young adult umbrella covers so many different types of stories. And they're so creative. So
I just learned about like YA mystery. Like, I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah.
And I've read a couple this year, and I'm really enjoying it. So.
Oh, okay. You'll have to tell me which ones you've read later.
I just have assumed that like YA was basically like contemporary or fantasy, and like that's all you had.
It does really feel like that still, though. I do feel like there's been a mystery push lately. I'm looking at my shelves to see what other kind of. Yeah, but it really is a lot of contemporary and fantasy.
And up until last year, I didn't read contemporary, like, ever at all.
What made you push to read contemporary? This is not what this topic's about, but I'm curious.
It's not what we're supposed to be talking about, but it's interesting. I read The Hate U Give in 2017 when it came out, and I really enjoyed that. I think mainly it's been BookTube has pushed me to read it because I have been watching more people who read more contemporary than I do. And they talk about the books and like how much they enjoyed them and what they liked about them. I'm like, well, I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so then I started reading them more of it. But it's not the same as fantasy. Like, I don't love it the way I love fantasy, but some of them are really, really good.
Yes, I gotcha. I felt the same. It's not my first love of a genre by any means, but I can appreciate it.
So like, I grew up reading like the Babysitter's Club books and Goosebumps. So like, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. I'm with you. That's what I always think of, like the Princess Diaries, which would have theoretically been under the contemporary, branch, but.
I just read the first book this month, so.
Oh, really?
I never read them before.
Oh, okay. How did you like the first book?
I liked it.
Okay, good. I haven't revisited them in a while, but I've reread them multiple times, so it would be fascinating to read it now as like really as an adult this time.
I'm twice her age.
Yeah.
Basically old enough to be her parent.
Yes, but still liked it. Great.
I still liked it, so hey.
Good. Okay.
Points.
Stands the test of time.
Anyway, back to the actual topic, because we said, oh, Becca made a comment. Hi, Becca! Becca's here. I aged up my main character in Riser 2 when I started writing it. She started out 15, and some of the stuff I was writing was like, this girl would be so fucked up if it all happened to her at 15. That was kind of like where I started at, was she was 15, and there were things that she was doing that her parents were like totally okay with, and I'm like, no parent's cool with that.
Yeah. No.
Most parents aren't cool with it at 17, but definitely not at 15.
That's what I feel like I do that even in like fantasy novels that are like completely separate worlds where I'm like, this person is for all intents and purposes would be an adult and is basically treated as an adult in this world. And yet I'm like, I should make her 17 or like, can I make her 16 in this world or is that too young? Even though it's not our world. So does it matter? But that is something I feel like you don't have to worry about as much in adult novels.
Well, in like fantasy wise, again, not what we're talking about, but in Warriors, like my main character is in her early 20s, but they live for like 900 years.
Oh, so she would be like,
she's still technically a young adult, but then like is the book young adult? Like,
yeah, that's so, yep.
It's hard to figure out because she's older than what our young adults would necessarily be, but for her type of people, not really.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question.
So I wrote down some questions that you could ask yourself.
Ooh.
If you were deciding if you wanted to leave your main story and jump over to your plot bunny and spend time on it.
Yeah.
So the first question is it distracting from your main story? So if you're sitting there and you can't write what you're working on because all you're thinking about is the plot bunny in your head, then yeah, it's probably a good idea to write down what you have. It's not necessarily good to just completely run away from what you're working on and like not go back to it for a while. But if you have to get down the thoughts that are in your head to get them out of your head so that you can work on something else.
Yeah.
The second question, I believe we've kind of touched already, is your main story lagging? If you're somewhere that you can't figure out what you're trying to do and you're trying to figure it out and it's not working for you, sometimes working on another plot can help you figure out how to fix that plot occasionally. And the third question that I have is, are you good with time management?
Yes.
Because I know you especially, you write typically different in the morning than what you do like in the afternoon. You work on like your work stuff and your writing stuff, or sometimes just do different writing things. And I think if you're a person who's good with time management, or at least decent at time management, and you can say to yourself, I've got 4 hours to write today, so I'm going to spend 2 hours on my main story and 2 hours on my plot bunny story, just getting things down, and you can make yourself stick to that, then I think that's okay.
Yes, that's a great point. And that's something that I haven't thought about in a while because it's like, feels kind of like a muscle that I've like exercised and grown, because when I first quit my finance job and went kind of this full-time writer thing, I did not have that ability to separate, and the time management was a new kind of struggle when you're home all day kind of getting to decide your own focus. So I feel like that's something that can be improved upon, I guess is what I'm saying, over time.
Definitely. I need to work on that, but it still counts for you guys to ask it to yourself. I'm one of those people that like, I can tell you how to solve all of your problems, but don't expect me to apply them to my life.
Right. Listen to do as I say, not as I do kind of thing.
Hardcore, do as I say, not as I do.
Yep.
Can tell you how to solve all of your life's problems, but please don't ask me to apply it to my own life because it's not happening. Because that's how I operate. You also, a few months ago, had a story that you wrote like the entire first draft of in like a month as like a plot bunny.
Yeah, that was basically, I needed to get it out of my head because it would not stop pestering me. And then it just all came faster than any other story I've had. But I haven't touched that story since. It's still just kind of sitting there. I don't know if those two things are correlated or what. But I did kind of follow that advice of, if what was it, your question number 2, if it's just bothering you, get it out kind of thing. Yeah. And for me, what it ended up turning into was getting it out entirely.
And sometimes that's the answer. Sometimes you have to just write everything out.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're not really talking about like if you get an idea for a story and it's like 3 sentences and you write it down. Like that's not really the type of plot bunny you have to worry about. The type you have to worry about is the kind that like you want to spend weeks on and you're like, should I spend weeks on it?
Yeah. That's what usually, if it pops into my brain, there's like a really cool hook and I already have the beginning, the middle, and the end, and it's like fully formed in my mind somehow. That's when I know I'm like in trouble. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to want to write this story, and sooner rather than later kind of thing.
And I'm sure for me that like at least half of me going from one plot to another is me trying to procrastinate actually writing. But again, that's me. So
yeah,
that's, like, I know I have my problems.
Yeah, that's the other hard part, because I do it for sure. And figuring out when it's a legitimate problem with the story and what that legitimate problem is that's making me bored of that story, bored in quotes. Is it because I'm bored? Is it because there's an actual problem in the story I haven't realized yet? Is it just because this new story, new idea is so great? I still don't think I'm that great at deciphering those clues. I just can see them, but I can't really tell what's going on.
Well, I think sometimes there's also, as I said before, like trial and error. Like if you're at a plot in the story that you're on and you feel it lagging and you want to try something different, you can do that, but you can also try skipping the scene you're in the book that you're writing. Skip that scene, go to the next one where you know what starts and see if that's it. Because it may just be the scene that you're working on is difficult, so you want to procrastinate that scene and work on something different. And that's kind of how to tell the difference in whether you're procrastinating the story you're on or if you actually have like a plot bunny that's not going to leave you alone.
Yeah. And that's something else. Who was it? Was it Sinmiel? I don't know if I'm saying that right in the comments, asking about how to stay motivated. Is that sometimes when I'm having that problem, if it's just with one scene, and if I realize that's my motivation struggle, I just skip that scene and go to the thing I'm excited for. And I know not everyone likes to write that way. Some people like to write all the way straight through. Completely linear, but I found it helps me that if it really is just a problem with this scene, skip it and I can write it later. So
I think I've learned that I need to write linear. When I started writing the Warriors story, like 12 years ago or so ago, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
I started writing it by scenes. Just things that would come to me here and there, and then tried to piece it all together. And that's why it's been so long, because I spent like a year or two doing like research, history research, world building, all that type of stuff. And then spent like a year writing different scenes, and then a couple of years trying to piece everything together, and then a couple of years trying to fill in all the holes. And don't do that.
Yeah.
There are people that can. There are people that can write like scenes and then patch it together, and it's like the easiest thing ever. I have learned that I'm not that person.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not really either. It's usually that I know a scene needs to take place and I just don't want to write it that minute, but I go to like the immediate next scene. It's very rare that so in some ways I'm still writing linearly. I'm just kind of skipping one here and there.
One part.
Kind of thing. Yeah, I can't stitch things together. That's the hardest part about revising for me, is when I realize that I've like messed up the timeline, or one scene just isn't working and having to stitch something together after. Oh.
Have you ever had that moment where you're like, yay, it's done, and you go back through to do a read through at like the 4th round of edits, and you get to like chapter 14 and it just says right fight scene here, and then chapter 15?
Yep.
I have.
Yep.
You're like 4 edits in, 4 rounds of edits in, and it's like the 4th draft, and you're like, it's great, I can like send this off to betas. Oh my gosh, it's missing a whole chapter.
Yep. Cool. Yep. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Who needed to write that fight scene? Not me.
Why
Huh?
is writing so hard?
Why is it so difficult? When you guys decide to I can't read today, Becca, sorry. When you guys decide to switch projects, do you fully outline the new idea or just write down notes? Both, depending on the story.
Yes, that's what. Okay, I need to reread that because I had like 3 different thoughts and now they all left. When you guys decide to switch projects, do you fully outline the new idea or just write down notes? It depends. Apparently, so I don't know. Once upon a time, I thought I'd like come up with like an actual system where I did like Freytag's pyramid, and then I started doing chapter by chapter outlines. So every new idea, when I decided to switch, that's what I did first. But now I have this idea about the story revolving around death and naming, and I'm once again pantsing a novel, which I feel like I haven't done in like 5 years. So that one, I guess, I just write down notes for.
Well, and I have learned, like, if I make my notes too detailed, I get bored.
Ooh.
And I don't want to write it.
Yeah.
So I typically just like write down notes, things that come to me. In OneNote, that's where my folders are. I keep everything in there. And I will just like write down some notes. But when I did, I think it was July's Camp Nano, maybe, and I did the 0 draft for the guard story, I just like 3 days before camp was like, I have this really cool idea, and I'm going to, instead of working on what I originally planned on working on, I'm just going to write that for camp, because it would not leave me alone. It would not get out of my brain. I was thinking about it constantly, thinking about the characters constantly. Like I already had their names and everything all in my head. I didn't even have to look up character names. I named like 40 people just like off the top of my head, just like,
oh my gosh,
which Kate has never done.
Yeah.
Not even 4, let alone 40.
That would be amazing.
And it just like it was kind of like your other story. Like it all just came to me so quickly. And I think I was done like in 20 days. I didn't take the full month to write everything down, which was has never happens to me ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm devoting more of my time to it now, that I'm writing like the actual first draft that was supposed to be done at the end of January, and it's the end of February and it's still not done yet.
Yay.
But I'm devoting more time to it than to anything else because it is what is working for me right now.
Well, are you gonna still be writing that, you think, as your April camp story?
God, I hope not. I don't, my goal was to have it finished by the end of January so that I could let it sit until April and do edits during April. But now it's going to be like July's edits.
Yeah.
And that's, if I finish it at the end of March. So good luck to me. It's almost done. I have about maybe 6 or 7 more pages of handwritten notes that need transferred into 6 or 7 handwritten pages of the 0 draft that need to be made into a first draft. So
yeah, you got it.
I can do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm going to work on during April. So
that's why, well, maybe another plot buddy will come to you, or you'll switch over to
one of the other 87 stories I have ideas for.
Exactly.
One of the other 3 that are currently in progress. I actually was looking at this the other day. When I said I was making notes for today. I have some that literally just have like 5 or 6 bullet points.
Yes.
And they haven't been edited since 2013.
Yes.
Like, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Is that story even relevant to today's time? Of course, it's been 9 years. I can't do math today. It's been 6 years. The topics have probably come back around. So
that's very true. So cyclical.
It's a very weird thing.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. One of the ways that okay, so when I was trying to count up how many story ideas I had, I went back to a Google Sheets I had where I was taking my word count I wrote each day in each of the stories, which I should look at again because it could tell me how much I focused on one story over another. But so for a month, I like kind of kept track of things in this Google Sheet. I stopped after that month was done. But I feel like I don't know that I keep track of things other than where my attention currently is, or like if I give myself deadlines and goals for the month and like a planner, since you and I are both planner people. So
what? Planners?
I know.
We don't like keep track of numbers and statistics.
That's true.
Never. Not us. Yeah, we have problems. I think that is another way to decipher whether your plot bunnies are taking over is by keeping track of how much time you're spending on your main story versus how much you're spending on plot bunnies. And if you're spending too much time on plot bunnies, then you probably are just procrastinating.
Yes. Yep. That's a great
point. Becca says, sometimes I get so overwhelmed when I have too many projects, I end up writing nothing. Same. Before I started writing the one that I'm working on now, a lot of times it was just like coming in and trying to decide which story I wanted to work on because I know that they need worked on. And I would like come in and sit down and try to figure out which story I wanted to work on. And I would just be like, no, I'm just not doing anything today because I can't decide.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll just watch a movie.
Yeah.
Which is super helpful.
Yeah. Well, I have something, I don't know that it's the exact same situation that I have right now, because overwhelmed isn't quite it. It's almost like the opposite effect. So like Project Blue, I'm querying. So I haven't, looked at that. Like it's in its final form for right now. And then Project Purple's out to beta readers. So I'm not touching that right now. And so this new story idea, I'm not actually writing in it as much per day as what I'm used to writing per day. So it's almost like an underwhelmed situation. I really don't know what it is. Maybe it's like my brain just needs a minute to chill and it's fully taking it. But
it either needs a minute or it needs another plot.
That's, yeah.
It's working on multiple things and it's only working on one thing. So it's like, I can slow down.
Yeah, that might be exactly it. It's like, take your time.
It'll be fine. It's just one story. We got plenty of time for this.
Yeah, that might totally be it. Now that you're mentioning it, maybe
You can read some of those unread books in your spare time.
I know. Oh my gosh. You know what? I have been reading more though. So
I think I'm at like 15 for the year.
Dang, that's really good though.
I'm still struggling to read Lord of Shadows and Queen of Air and Darkness though. Like I've had Lord of Shadows for almost 2 years and I am on like page 120. Not because it's bad, but because it's so huge that I just like, I get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. I definitely get overwhelmed by big books, which might be something else worth mentioning on these kind of, if your plot buddy is almost so huge, I guess you could get overwhelmed by the project itself too. We're going to correlate reading and writing again.
Well, I mean, they do correlate. They are very, I think you use like the same part of your brain.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Whether you're creating the written word and the entire vision, or you're just reading the written word and creating the vision.
Yeah.
Oh, creating a vision in your brain. Making movies inside of our heads.
Yes.
If only it was as easy as reading a book to create one in your head as it was to get it from your head onto the page.
Oh, I wish that all the time. And it's also the thing that I feel like most people who don't write novels but have an idea for a novel think that writing is. You know, where they're like, oh my gosh, I have this great idea. It would be so easy. You just write it for me and like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, no, no, no.
That's not how this works.
This is not the same thing.
It's not. And I think that I have kind of come to the conclusion, which is a weird conclusion to come to as a writer, but I almost feel like I would be better at a different form of creative writing. Like, I'm good at like the plots and the ideas, and I think that I'm good at like plot twists and all of that stuff, but I think I'm really bad at like writing itself. Like the formulaic versions, like the grammar and the way that you string sentences together, like I feel like I'm really bad at that. I'm creative, but I can't do the mechanical part of it.
Yeah. Oh, that would be interesting to try out. Like, I know I've watched some of Becca's videos, talking about Becca in the comments, about like script writing and stuff like that. You never know. Could just throw something different into your mix of projects and plot bunnies and see what works.
I might have to do that at some point and just like try something different and see if it works better for what I'm doing. I never dreamed that, like, I mean, as a teenager, I wrote fan fiction like everyone did that writes now. I'm pretty sure pretty much everyone has written at least one fan fiction if you're a writer now. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Don't downtrodden the fan fiction because we've all done it. But I never thought as like writing my own original stories until I was like 20. And I mean, I wrote like short stories for school and stuff, but never anything for fun. Mm-hmm. I was always a poetry writer for fun. Oh. And now I hate poetry.
Wow. Okay.
It's not my thing. I hate it. And I mean, I have like published poetry from like high school and junior high, and I can't stand it. Like it doesn't work for me anymore.
That's fascinating.
Weird. But
yeah,
so I'm a weirdo.
Throw script writing into the new decade. So.
It's been 10 years. I need to change.
Yeah, exactly. I was just, because I was going through my books, I realized that I'd written exclusively Harry Potter fan fiction. We all wrote fan fiction. I think for several years before I read this one book series, and I never wanted to write a fan fiction of that series, but I know that that series is the one that got me into writing my own original fiction, which is like an interesting twist. I don't know why it was the thing that was like, you know, you should just try your own ideas, or what made me think of that. But
the very first fan fiction that I wrote, which I probably still have somewhere, it's probably at my dad's house, which kind of like is dilapidated and fell in upon itself and no longer has a roof, so probably does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
But I remember it was more like a script format. Like it was like the character name, and then like there was no dialogue tags. It was like the character name and then like what they said and then like what they did and then the character name and like what they said and what they did. Because I didn't know how to write because I was like 12.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Like, this makes sense.
Made sense for a 12-year-old to write a story like that. And then like me and my best friend at the time would send it back and forth between one another, and like we would just keep adding to the story.
Yes.
12-year-olds doing things that are very inappropriate for 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Because my nieces are 12 and I would kill them.
You're like, no.
Yeah. So the older your nieces get, the more you fear for humanity.
That's the gauge.
You can't do that. You're 12. What is wrong with you?
Let's see.
Becca is telling me to try screenplays. Becca, friend, I just may. That may be something I try this year.
That would be so fun. I think that'd be great. I want to try it too at some point.
We should do that. We should do because we both like to do writing experiments. We should pick a month and do like a screenplay writing experiment, like in the second half of the year, because we'll need to do some research.
I do. Yeah, like figure out. I need to read some screenplays first.
We need to do some research first, but like in the second half of the year, we should do
what?
like a group writing experiment.
I'm so down for that. Becca, you've inspired us.
You have inspired new directions. Ta-da! Start out as a pilot for a TV show, much shorter. We're gonna do research.
Yeah.
I said I wanted to do monthly writing experiments this year, and so far I have done 0.
I think I'm going to do one that's, my next one's going to be short story based, which would be perfect, I guess, since I'm in the middle of like a plot bunny crisis. So I can switch it up with a story a day and see how it goes.
One of mine that I have listed was to try poetry again.
Yes.
Because I haven't for a long time, but I found when I was cleaning off my shelves the other day, I found like my old notebook that has like all of my old poetry in it. So I was like, maybe you should try it again. Like, don't hate poetry so much, because that was like where you excelled.
That's what, now I'm so curious about it. I would love to see you do that as an experiment and hear how that goes for you.
Well, and like in creative writing in high school, like all the kids hated like the poetry section.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was that person that would write like one serious, like for every version of like a poem, I would write like one serious one that would be like the one that would be graded, and then one that was just like goofy and over the top, like about penguins or glaciers or whatever, and would turn them both in because I enjoyed it so much that I would just write 2 and turn them in. And now I'm like, poetry. Why?
That's so funny.
Why? I think part of that too is because of like I see what is popular in poetry right now.
Oh yeah. Like Instagram poets kind of thing.
Well, Instagram poets, and there are a couple of really popular, recently published in the last couple of years, books of poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't, like, it's not poetry to me. It reads like drunken, unedited late night tweets. And I can't, like, if that's what poetry is, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I feel like I remember you telling me which book this was about in one of your like wrap up. I think I have.
Oh, it's in a wrap up, because that is like word for word drunken late night unedited tweets.
Yeah.
Jody says, I'm looking forward to 2 books being adapted into movies, 5 Feet Apart and After. Are there any book to movie or TV adaptations you are looking forward to? I have not read either 5 Feet Apart or After. I've heard some really horrible things about people and After. I've heard people like the book itself. I don't even know what it's about. I have no clue. But I've heard people like saying that the book was trash, so why are they making a movie out of it?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of tweets, but don't have a grasp on what the actual.
I honestly, I've never seen anything about the movie or the book, and so like I didn't even care enough to look and see what it was about to see why they hated it.
Yeah,
like,
I need to look to movie adaptations 2019.
I'm that hardcore that I'm just like, I don't even care. Any book to movie TV adaptations? I am currently looking forward to the final half season of Shadowhunters. I know the first one aired last night, and I haven't watched it yet, and I probably won't until tomorrow. But that's kind of one that's like already started because it's almost the end, but I'm excited about it anyway.
Oh, I see. 5 Feet Apart. Okay, now I know which one we're talking about.
5 Feet Apart looks interesting, but I am sort of somewhat managing depression. I mean, I'm medicated, but sometimes those really sad, like kids have some disease and they're dying movies, like send me into like a complete depression spiral. So I try not to watch those.
Yes. I do understand that.
Anything with like young kids having any kind of diseases or like possibly dying, or whether it's like television or books or movies, I try to stay away from, because I know that I'm prone to spending like the entire weekend in my bed sobbing. So
yeah. Well, and I definitely know that I have some movies and books that I can't read because they cover a certain topic. Similarly, where I'm like, I just can't separate this from like what I've experienced in life or something. So it's like, it's not a fun or cathartic or anything. It's just pain. So,
I can't do it. I don't want to involve in it. Let me out. Like
yeah,
there's some
exactly.
things that I can't do.
Yeah.
What
You know what? I'm Googling. I saw apparently Artemis Fowl. They're making a movie out of that series. In which case,
I'm list right now because I have no idea what's coming out this year.
I had to Google. I was like, what even is?
Does the next Avengers movie count as book to movie adaptation?
I feel like it should. In which case, I'm very excited.
Because
the Game of Thrones is coming out, so I'm excited for that.
I have never watched or read any Game of Thrones, so I know nothing.
I haven't read them, but the show is great.
I did see the teaser for Umbrella Academy on Netflix the other day, and that looks interesting, but I haven't read the books, so for the graphic novels, I guess I should say, because it's a graphic novel. I'm trying to think of like you would think if there was like one that was coming out that I would just like know what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling.
You know, I'm wondering if there's not quite as many YA adaptations because they haven't done as well in the box office in recent years. I'm a little bit curious about that and what the reasoning is, but I don't know enough about movies to understand, so I'm going to have to Google that more.
Well, I feel like there are a lot of like adult books that are being changed into movies, but I think that has always been the case. We just haven't necessarily known that was the case.
A good point. Sometimes I don't find out that it's based off of a book until after the movie's out and it says it, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I haven't read Little Women. I don't know if you have read Little Women, but I see that it is releasing this year with Emma Watson. So if you're an Emma Watson fan.
I do vaguely remember that.
You are a Colin Firth fan.
I do appreciate Colin Firth.
And there is an adaptation of Secret Garden coming out this year, starring Colin Firth. Just saying. Just throwing that out there.
We'll happily watch it.
You who likes Colin Firth?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it would be like a classic. I could do a Cooking with Classics and and then watch the movie.
You know, I don't feel like I don't feel like I know a lot of these. I haven't heard of a lot of these. All the Right Places is YA, but I haven't heard bad things about the book, but it's like what I've heard. I know it's one of those books that like I can't read because I'll bawl my eyes out.
Yeah.
And never get out of bed. The Sun is Also a Star is adapted, which is a Nickelodeon.
I own but have not read. So
I do not own it, but I do know what the premise of it is. I would watch that. Like I haven't read the book, but I would watch the show. It will probably make me cry too, but it's probably one of those ones that I can handle.
Yeah.
I still need to watch The Hate You Give, the movie. I own it, but I haven't watched it yet.
I still need to watch it too. And I did love the book. I've reread
I love the book. So. Sin Meow says, I've watched Umbrella Academy and it was really good. I haven't read the books though. Same. I can't even think of the girl's name that's in it. The one that was in Juno, but Ellen Page.
Yes.
I really like her, and I've seen her in the preview, so I was like, I would probably like that because she's in it and she's funny and I like her, so cool. Like I can't think of her name. 20 seconds later, the name comes out. Sarah says, I love Little Women, so I'll give it a watch, but I just love the one with Winona Ryder, so I don't know if I really need a new one. I don't I don't even know what Little Women is about because I don't read literature or classics very often because I'm a horrible human being. Um, but I would watch it because it's got Emma Watson. Sometimes I just watch things because like I like the actors or actresses that are in them. So
I feel like that's as good a reason as any sometimes.
well, and I also feel like as because we're off in an adaptation tangent here, you have to look at them individually. Like they're never going to be the book
Mm-hmm.
or the 90s, and they'll never be exactly what you want them to be. But that doesn't mean that they're bad.
Yes.
They can all be good for different reasons. As you and I have discussed, Vampire Academy, like love the movie, love the book, completely different stories.
Yes. Yeah.
Like they don't even follow the same basic plot line.
You know what was so weird to me is that I have rewatched it since then. I actually don't think they did like, I guess because I like both of them. I was like, they didn't do that bad of a job.
They didn't do that bad as far as like the plot line goes.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more campy and less dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, the books are very dark and the movie is very not dark.
Yes, that's a great point.
But I love the movie because it's funny, and I love the books because they're dark.
Yeah.
And the characters are still the characters. Like,
yes.
They didn't change, just like the world around them changed.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I thought was so interesting when I did the Pride and Prejudice thing, and I heard people telling me how much it felt like if you were introduced to Pride and Prejudice through the movie first, you liked the movie best. But if you saw, it was almost like whichever one you saw or did first, you liked that one best. Even though they have their own things, I think you can appreciate about all of them.
I will always love that movie the best. Like, there's pretty much no way that, like, if they remade it today,
yeah,
it would be hard for me to like it more. And that's because, like, Keira Knightley was, like, my hero at that time in my life. Like, I just, like, worshipped the ground that she walked on.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, there will probably never be one that I like more than that.
Yeah.
For that reason alone.
That's like, it's in, like, one of my top 10, like, happy movies. Like, if I'm sick and I need to feel better, I put that movie on. If I just want something that feels, like, close to home, I put that movie on. Like, it is one of those kind of movies for me, so I agree. You know, was it a perfect, you know, word for word adaptation? No. Was it its own thing and still beautiful? Yes.
And that's how you do it right. You make it work for the what you have.
Medium. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do we have anything else to say about the actual topic of discussion today?
We got so far off. I mean, still, you know.
We do. We talk about, that's how our chats go. We talk about what we're supposed to talk about, and then it goes off into random tangent land.
Yeah. Still story-based. I think we did a better job this time. I don't think I have anything else on the topic other than if people have questions or want to share how they manage multiple things.
Yes. Does anyone have any questions about managing things or life in general? We're fine. We have no problems going off topic.
Clearly.
Obviously. Or do you have any tips or tricks about how you handle the real world of plot bunnies? Because they're real.
Very real.
And annoying sometimes.
Yes.
And then you wait for the pause to go through.
I know, the worst part.
Here's your 20-hour lag.
I know. But I am thinking now, this whole topic has me realizing, I think rather than trying to shoehorn my newest story into like the same outlining format is what I usually do. I'm just going to pants it. And then to give myself, my brain clearly enough, like mental exercise, I'm going to do my little writing experiment, since I think you're right. I think I need something else to focus on. Otherwise, it's just not going to work for me. I like my 2 plot bunnies, and I like them simultaneously.
two simultaneous plot bunnies. Sarah says she got here late and she never heard the topic discussion, which is hilarious. What is a plot bunny? I will tell you to watch it back so you can actually like get the full discussion. But basically, we were discussing how if you're writing a story and you start to get ideas for another story that won't leave you alone, how do you decide which one you should focus on mainly? Which should be your main focus?
Mm-hmm.
And we discussed some ways that you can decipher what to work on and how to use your time in the best way.
Yeah, Jessica had like 3 good questions you could work through in order to determine things, which I thought was great. So
sometimes I have words.
You came ready and prepared. You did great.
I made notes, guys. Like 20 words of notes. I'm prepared for this. Do we know for sure what next month's topic is going to be?
No, but maybe that's something that we can put up to the people, or you and I can discuss. I'd be happy to like make a post as a poll or something on the community tab, and we can see.
You can do that. You can do that. I cannot. I do not have enough followers to do anything on the community tab.
How many do you need? I don't understand.
I don't know, but it won't let me, so I'm assuming that I don't have enough.
No.
Like, I have, let me open it and see. I have 2 comments that are likely spam. Awesome. Like, I can see my comments, and I can see my subscribers, and I can see community settings, but I don't have, like, I mean, if it exists, if I have enough subscribers, I don't know how to find it.
Access it. I feel like I usually do it on my phone, so I'm gonna see real quick if I can access it on
your phone.
Yeah. Oh,
I obviously have like no idea how this thing works. So
I do have a community tab. You know what? I just realized that apparently YouTube has a Creator Studio app.
Really?
Really, really. And it does make answering comments so much easier if you're going to do it on your phone. I do recommend it. Blew my mind.
Is it like the super chat? Is that a thing?
I don't have that.
It asks me if I want that, but I'm ineligible because I don't have enough followers.
I feel like they need to make up their mind.
Kate and Jessica figuring out how the internet works. Yeah, I don't, maybe you can only do it from your phone, and that's why I don't know it, because I don't use my phone for YouTube, so.
I'll send you like a screenshot over, oh, I accidentally clicked on a video. I'll send you a screenshot over Twitter so we can see.
I have like no idea how the internet works. I don't know. Yeah, I don't see anything where I have like the option to do it, but yeah, we can look at it later when we're not talking to the whole free world and
yeah, sounds good.
try to figure it out, because I have no clue. But yes, we can do a poll on the community tab and on Twitter and see what
people want us to chat about.
Mash all of our percentages together and then see what we want to do.
Yeah, and
like next topic, because it doesn't do any good to talk about things that people don't want to talk about, because then there won't be anybody here to talk to.
Yes.
And it'll just be me and you talking about books and bunnies.
I mean, I feel like this is great.
You know, I understand that there are like AuthorTube type chats that are more structured, and I feel like if that's what you're looking for, then that's available to you. For you and I, what works is discussing the topic for a little while and then discussing other things that are writing or reading related.
Yeah,
and there are people that are here for that. So if everybody does the same thing, then there won't be something for everyone.
Yes.
We have to carve our own niche and make our own advantages in the world or something like that.
Right. Just like we all do with our videos. So
yeah, everybody does different videos. You and do some of the best. You have some of like the best ideas for videos. I don't know where you come up with this thing. But
no, thank you.
you cook things with books.
I know. That was literally, I think that idea was born out of when I was on my super mega solo road trip and I couldn't cook anything because I didn't have the tools. And I was like, you know what would be a great idea?
You owe me a great idea. Food.
Yeah.
Just food. That's it. Just
yeah, generally.
Just
once them, I'll just go buy food. I'd be like, let's talk about the book.
Eventually, you'll just be like, I bought these cookies. Let's talk about this book I read.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Lord. It's killing me. If anybody has any ideas for what they would like the next chat to be about, feel free to throw that out and we will add them into the poll. Because I don't have a whole lot of ideas right now.
Yeah, and I'll brainstorm some more. I'll see if we can come up with anything.
You brainstorm an idea and I'll name it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be great.
Our strengths.
By our powers combined.
We're like the Wonder Twins. We need like magic rings so we can connect through the computer screen. Oh, you like blanked out and then you froze and then I was scared that you were gone, but you're back.
Oh no, still here.
It's weird. Like it's only doing it on the Hangout video, not the big video that I'm not looking at. Because if I do, I get confused about what's happening.
Yes.
I can see it in the background though.
Yeah.
It's not blanking out, so it looks like no one else has anything else fun to say.
All right. Well, I guess we've successfully covered this topic.
We have. And if you are watching this back and you have questions, feel free to reach out in the comment section or to either of us on any of our social media. Mine and Kate's are both linked below. Because I did that earlier today.
Yes.
And I will attempt to timestamp this with actual information so that if you're wanting to watch it back later, you can skip all of the not imperative information.
Yeah, when we're talking about the actual topic and when we're talking about books and movies.
Then we'll timestamp some stuff. I've timestamped before, but I don't remember how to do it, so I'll have to do some research. You do it all the time, but I need research.
It's super easy.
I'm like, I remember it's easy or I wouldn't have done it the first time, but it's been a minute.
That's very true.
If it was hard, I'd have been like, no, it's fine. They'll figure it out.
Not worth it.
It's fine. They'll figure it out. They know how YouTube works. Just watch it, skip forward. It's fine. Okay, everyone. I think that is going to be it for today. Again, don't forget to let us know if you have any questions or what topics you'd like to do next time. Look out for polls so we can figure out which topic we want to go with next time. That's all I got. You have anything you want to say before we run away?
I don't think so. I mean, next time it'll be on my channel and we will figure out a date and time and let y'all know.
Yes. Because our lives are hard to stick together.
Schedule around. Yes.
And because we're in different time zones. That helps.
Yes.
Okay. That is it for today. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.